Number 6. They agree inasmuch as both, on account of their divine authority, entitle their faithful executors to double honor. 1 Timothy 5, verse 17, quote, "Let the elders that rule well be accounted worthy of double honor," unquote. Here honor and respect are enjoined toward the ecclesiastical branch, whose characters should be venerated and their persons cherished, even for their work's sake. Reverence and honor are also due to the civil branch. To this purpose we are commanded in Proverbs 24, verse 21 to, quote, "fear God and the king," unquote. Lawful rulers are God's vicegerents, and ought to be honored on account of him whom they represent. And in Romans 13, verse 7, when speaking of the civil magistrate, the apostle commands to, quote, render to all their due, fear to whom fear, and honor to whom honor," unquote. Number 7. They agree in this, that the ultimate end of both, in every part of their procedure, should be the glory of God. In Isaiah 61, verses 1 and 4, we are informed that the grand end of every part of Christ's economical administration, in proclaiming liberty to the captives, in opening the prison doors to them that were bound, and announcing the acceptable year of the Lord, was, quote, "that God might be glorified," unquote. In like manner, to this end, ought all the movements of the civil branch to be directed. It is a divine ordinance. Its executors are the vicegerents of Jehovah. Every act of their administration should, of course, be a farther development of his character and a new manifestation of his glory. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 31. Quote, "Whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God," unquote. But as it appears that the two branches agree in several things, it may be proper, still farther, in the fourth head, to show what concern the civil branch should take with the ecclesiastic, to inquire how far the civil power, circa sacra, reaches. That magistrates have officially, by divine authority, something to do with religion, to enforce the commands of God and suppress the violations of his law, appears plain even from New Testament documents. Romans 13, verse 4, quote, "He, the magistrate, is the minister of God," unquote. Now, how can he be God's minister and yet be regardless of the honor and laws of him from whom he has derived his authority? Moreover, God's commands are obligatory upon everyone in his respective station and relation in society. When God says, quote, "buy the truth and sell it not," quote, "contend earnestly for the faith once delivered to the saints," unquote. When he forbids, quote, "turning aside to the right hand or to the left," unquote. In one word, when speaking of idolaters, Deuteronomy 7, verse 5, he commands, quote, "to destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire," unquote. Upon whom are these injunctions obligatory? Is it only upon private individuals? Is the magistrate exempted? Does the circumstance of his being God's minister loose him from the obligation of the divine law? This indeed would be a doctrine worthy of modern illumination, but it stands in direct contradiction to the whole volume of the Book of God. See one passage, Deuteronomy 17, verses 18 and 19. But we shall proceed more particularly to inquire what concern the magistrate has officially with religion. Number 1. He has no directive power about anything ecclesiastical. He hath not any right to prescribe rules, introduce new modifications, or alter a simple pin of the sacred tabernacle. The Church's constitutional laws are derived from a higher authority. To this she is amendable. Isaiah 8, verse 20, quote, "To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them," unquote. The Church judicative, as such, possessing the sacred depositum of the heavenly oracles, ought, as in Matthew 23, verse 10, quote, "to call no man master, for one is her master, even Christ," unquote. Number 2, he hath no power in, but only about ecclesiastical concerns. Every act of his concerning religion, should be essentially and formally civil. He may not dare to touch either the key of order or the key of jurisdiction. Should he, like Uzziah, presume to interfere with the sacred ministerial functions, let him dread the tremendous consequences. He ought, like Asa, Jehoshaphat, and Hezekiah, to contribute every effort as far as his political influence can extend to promote religious reformation. Thus we find in 1 Timothy 2, verse 2, that this is the desirable end to be effected by his righteous administration. That is, quote, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty, unquote. Number 3, the civil magistrate ought to defend and protect the church of Christ. Isaiah 49, verse 23, quote, kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers, unquote. Does not this imply protection? The metaphors selected by the Spirit of God involve the highest possible care and tenderness. I know it has been objected by some that the tender care and concern here intended is not official, but merely personal, as an individual member of the church. The reason assigned is that the epithet involving concern is not confined to kings, but is common to all their queens, and this must be acknowledged to be unofficial. Sure, none are exempted from being concerned about the interest of religion. The irrelevancy of the objection will appear by attending to an observation formerly made, that is, that the commands of God are obligatory upon everyone in his respective station and department of life. Queens are bound to exercise all the influence which in the providence of God is conferred upon them in promoting the religion of Jesus. Kings or civil magistrates in like manner are indispensably bound to exercise all the power which they possess in their stations to promote the same desirable end. Whatever quantity of this power is kept back is so much unliquidated debt due to the Messiah by the express command of that God whom magistrates represent. Psalm 2, verse 12, quote, kiss ye the Son, lest he be angry, unquote. When Christ's mystical body needs this power, and the magistrate withholds the benefit of it, does he not run the risk of being charged by Jesus at the last day, as we read in Matthew 25, verses 42 and 45, quote, I was an hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink, etc. Inasmuch as ye did it not unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye did it not to me, unquote. This same idea of protection, tenderness, and care as a blessing to be expected in New Testament times is held out in Isaiah 60, verses 10 and 16, quote, kings shall minister unto thee, unquote, and, quote, thou shalt suck the breast of kings, unquote. All these passages evidently intimate that the civil power shall be exercised in administering officially to the church every comfort which may be expected to result from the union of magisterial authority and paternal care, such as defending her from her enemies and securing to her all her privileges. Moreover, when in 1 Timothy 2, verse 2, we are commanded to pray for magistrates, and the end promised is that the church and people of God, under the wing of their protection, quote, may lead quiet and peaceable lives in all godliness and honesty, unquote. Either indifference, therefore, on the part of the state toward the church, or an equal protection to her enemies, is notoriously incompatible with the ideas obviously contained in these sacred passages. Number 4. He ought, by his civil power, to remove all external impediments to the true religion and worship of God, whether they be persons or things, such as persecution, profaneness, heresy, idolatry, and their abettors, as did Asa, Hezekiah, Josiah, and other pious kings. Thus we are informed in the 9th chapter of 2 Kings that Jehu was anointed to cut off the idolatrous house of Ahab. In the 10th chapter we are told, in verse 25, that he destroyed the worshippers of Baal, and in the 30th verse, God commends him for doing so. And expressly, on that account, promises his children the throne of Israel to the 4th generation. Farther, to the same purpose, we have the approved conduct of Asa in 1 Kings 15, verses 12 and 25, quote, and he took away the Sodomites out of the land and removed all the idols that his father had made. And also Maacah, his mother, even her he removed from being queen, because she had made an idol in a grove. And Asa destroyed her idol, and burnt it by the brook Kidron, unquote. And in this we are told, quote, he did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, as did David his father, unquote. Verse 11. Yea, he is even complained of in the 14th verse, because the high places were not removed also. This, however, he afterwards performed, as appears from 2 Chronicles 14, verses 2 and 5, where we have some more fragments of his history. Quote, "He took away the altars of the strange gods in the high places, and brake down the images, and cut down the groves." Unquote. "And in this Asa did that which was good and right in the eyes of his God." Unquote. An approved example is equal to a precept, but precepts are not wanting. See Deuteronomy 13, verse 5, verse 18, and verse 20. Zechariah 13, verse 3, and Revelation 17, verse 16. Were it needful, we might quote also the authority of the most reformed churches in Europe, as also the most eminent martyrs. Quote, "We are encompassed about with a great cloud of witnesses." Unquote. The sentiments of that venerable assembly which penned the larger catechism are full and explicit on this subject. Quote, "The duties required in the second commandment are the detesting, disapproving, opposing all false worship, and according to each one's place and calling, removing it, and all monuments of idolatry." Unquote. See Larger Catechism, question 108. In this point, we might reasonably suppose all the Presbyterians in North America to be agreed, as the above question from the Larger Catechism has been adopted verbatim into the creed and church constitutions of every denomination of them, without exception. See said catechism as ratified and adopted in their constitutions.